city and county Christine here over the past couple of years through design coordination of this project and of these projects. So I just wanted to come here tonight to give a quick overview of the project, what kind of stuff we're doing, and then also talk about construction and traffic impacts, what that would look like, what you could expect over the next couple of years. So before I get started, I'd just kind of like to, I don't know all of you, so if we could just go around the room real quick and give
Mike Grote, Mayor.
Jim Peterson, I'm District 1 County Commissioner.
Shelby Ann Hay, I own the newspaper.
Heather Oates, Assistant City Administrator.
Rob Pressure, Chief, we've met.
Glenn Christensen, Council Member.
Andy Gappel, Council Member. Cody Eager, Council Member.
Patrick Casey, Attorney for the City of Ely.
I'm Chris Fisher, City Administrator.
Alright, nice to meet you all. So, alright, so what I'll do is give a project update, and then we'll get into the construction, staging, and traffic, public outreach, what have we done to present these projects to the public, what do we plan to do once we get into construction, and then next steps. So, first thing I'll do is I'll flip over. You guys do have a couple things in your stack that I gave you. One is the agenda. Another one is a one-pager, so that's that colorful one-page document with the front and back. So kind of the blue and green document. And what that does is, I don't have any more copies, but that one right here. So this one right here, one side has one of our projects and the other side has another of our projects, and essentially just gives a summary of the work, schedule, and then my contact information is on the bottom. The other document, kind of the maroon and orange one, for the Highway 60 project, it gives a summary, a little bit more detailed summary of the traffic impacts that you could expect, and any sort of detour routes that we have for that project. So I'll jump into this red document a little bit more here and a little bit later. So project overview, if you look on the screen here, you guys don't have this one. So we have three, like I mentioned, we have three projects over the next 2 years happening. They're in the blue shade here, the red, and the green. So if we work from north to south, the first project that we have is State Project 830532. It's on Highway 15, it's shown in blue here. It starts at the northern 15 and 60 interchange, and then goes up to the northern county line. So it's a mill and overlay, so what they'll do is they'll take off the top couple inches of bituminous pavement, and then they'll essentially put down new pavement in place. So it's a preservation type project. There's some county road intersection lighting that'll be going in, some snow fence, and then there is also bridge work, both on the railroad bridge and on the bridge at the interchange. That's all going to be happening in the 2022 season, so kind of the summer, fall time period of this upcoming season.
But just tell them there is no detour. It'll be a flag person.
Yeah, I'll get into that, but
Okay.
for this specific project, there will be no detour other than the bridge work, but that kind of goes hand in hand with the red project, which we'll get into. So, the second project, shown in red, is kind of the bigger project. It's a concrete overlay, so they'll essentially just put new concrete over the existing pavements that's out there today. It's designed to be a much longer lasting fix. It's a 2-year project, both 2022 and 2023. Other project components is there's bridge work, interchange lighting, a lot of drainage work. So that's kind of the main focus. In between the red project and the blue project, those are the projects that are going to have the greatest traffic impact to the city as we move along here. And then finally, more so just for your reference, third project will be 2023. That's Highway 15 heading south down to the southern county line. So again, that's just another mill and overlay project, pavement work, drainage work. So very similar to that northern blue project. That'll be happening in 2023, and you would primarily see the traffic impacts being flaggers, you know, when they're doing the paving or milling, they'll have the flagging operation where they'll let northbound go while southbound stays, and then they'll let southbound go.
So when you do the 60 project going south out of town,
Yep.
are you gonna make that so you don't have to wear a neck brace or something so you can drive down the road and don't the ceiling of your vehicle? Cause you drive up that on-ramp, going up that on-ramp now, it almost kills you.
Yep, so what we'll be doing is the mainline pavement of 60, we'll
Yep.
be getting brand new concrete, I think it's like 7 or 8 inches.
Where are they gonna fix what's underneath so it'll lay flat this trip?
That's the goal, yeah.
Cause it's nasty now, it's gotta be one of the worst roads in the area.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons, you know, what we do is like, MnDOT has a, you know, kind of a rating system where they
Right.
go out and measure the smoothness of a roadway. You know, one of the reasons we're doing this project here is because it's recognized as needing some works. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's high level what the 3 projects are as far as location. This isn't meant to be kind of a presentation, so I forgot to mention this. If you have any questions or anything, feel free just to jump in and interrupt me and ask those, so.
Is there a proposed time frame for having the, ramp closures?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there gonna be notification to the railroad? Cause once if those are closed, I mean, there's a lot of mornings where both railroad crossings are occupied, some mornings on the way out of town.
Yep.
So is there gonna be some kind of coordination with the railroad
Yep.
notifying that has to maintain at least one opening?
Yeah, so we've been coordinating, you're talking this railroad here.
Yeah, well, and then when a train is actually in town, you almost have to go to the
Out to the highway.
out to the highway to get out of town.
Yep.
So, just so that's
Yeah, so we've
something everybody's aware of.
Yep, so we've been coordinating with the railroad quite
Yeah.
extensively already, kind of through our design and getting any sort of permits and agreements that we need to with them.
And it might not be as much of an issue now as it was in the past. I think they're a little more equipped to load trains and manage trains at the elevator than they had been in the past with, you know, the new
Yep.
spur rails and stuff, but I know in the past it had been issue when they tried to load out of the east elevator for sure, but that one's privately owned now. so.
Yeah, and from what we've communicated with the railroad to date, they haven't really expressed any
Concern?
concerns of what we've
Okay.
been planning to do, so.
And they'll be sensitive to the fact that that going out of town and around is not gonna be an option. So they can't block both exits of town.
The railroad itself?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah, again, like we've coordinated, we've notified the railroad of the project, so.
What is the time frame that's gonna be closed, that ramp?
This ramp up here?
Right.
Yeah, I'll get into that, that's kind of gonna be the
Okay.
next step here, so that'll probably answer some of these questions, what that would look like. Deal? Okay. Alright, so next what I'll kind of do is I'll jump into the red and orange packet you have here, so, what this focuses on is the Highway 60 project, so that concrete overlay project. So there's 6 different pages there, kind of a front and back on 3 pages, so, high level, what you should expect from a traffic standpoint for this project over the next couple of years, 2022 and 2023. 1 year construction will be in the westbound lanes with traffic in the eastbound lanes, and that traffic would be in a head-to-head configuration, so, you know, 1 lane going in each direction. And then the second year, they would essentially just flip it all. So if you remember, Highway 60 was done going west out towards St. James a few years back. It's a very similar setup as to how traffic would look on Highway 60. So Highway 60 traffic will always be maintained and carried through, you know, as you go down out west towards St. James or up towards, you know, Mankato, Lake Crystal, like that. Where you will see a difference is that during traffic, during construction, ramps will need to be closed due to the work, we have to do work on those ramps, and that work will necessitate the closures. But while those closures are going on, one thing to keep in mind is we will always provide, both traffic will provide access both to and from Madelia at all times. It's just that access point is gonna be different depending on where we are during construction on that year. So, at a certain point, that access might be County Road 9, sometimes it might be County Road 3. And that's kind of what I'll get into a little bit more detail next year. So, if you go to kind of the second page here, it has the 2022 construction phase 1 in the upper left-hand corner. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, it has a few bullet points with some notes on there. So that'll kind of give you a good summary of what to expect during each construction season. So like I said, we have 2 years of construction on this project. There's a 2022 construction year and a 2023 construction year. And during each year, there's what we call a phase 1 and a phase 2 of construction. So really what that means from like a public standpoint is that during phase 1 and phase 2, the construction is generally going to be the same. It's just happening in different areas. But the difference will be the traffic will be, entering and exiting Madelia in a different area through different detour routes. So it really isn't a big change other than that those detour routes will be different between phase 1 and phase 2. So 2022 construction, Highway 60 traffic will be in the westbound lanes. So the westbound will have that 2-lane configuration with construction occurring in the eastbound lanes. So what that means from a traffic standpoint is traffic's in the westbound lanes. All of the westbound on and off ramps to and from Madelia will be open during that phase or during that stage. But on eastbound, all of the ramps will be closed to and from Madelia except for County Road 3. So if you look at this graphic here, I'll zoom in a little bit, you can see the purple line. That represents the detour route that you would have to use. So essentially the summary is that all traffic will be the same to and from Madelia except for the eastbound traffic, which will be essentially you have to use County Road 3 or the Highway 15 interchange at that point.
2 years of me driving around.
That sort of makes sense and follow?
Yeah, it does.
Saying a lot.
Basically, if you're going westbound, nothing's gonna change. If you're going
Correct.
eastbound, you're only gonna really have 2 exits. Or
Yep,
2
for the
vehicles.
first year. Yep. So, and then phase 2, you go to like the next page on there. Very similar again. Westbound ramps will be open. Traffic is still in the westbound lanes, except instead of using the County Road 3 interchange, you'd primarily be using the County Road 9 interchange, with the detour being on County Road 9 and County Road 58. One thing that's important to notice with this detour route is that it is only detouring either all or part of the Highway 15 traffic. So it's not detouring all of the Highway 60 traffic. Okay. And then, so that's 2022. When we get to 2023, it's going to be very similar, except now traffic will be in the eastbound lanes, construction will be in the westbound lanes. And then, depending on the timing of the year, the detour will either be on the County Road 9 interchange or at the County Road 3 interchange. Kind of a similar setup as 2022, except we're essentially flipping traffic on Highway 60.
And all the bridge work will be done this year then.
Bridge work will be done, this bridge right here, the
Yeah.
60 bridge and the 50, the railroad bridge will be done this year. The bridges on Highway 60 itself will be a combination, some in 22, some in 23.
Depending on which lane.
Correct, exactly, yep, depending which lane and which interchange is closed. That's a high level overview of the traffic impacts, staging, what that would look like. Is there any questions on that?
Kind of a proposed time frame for the 15 mil overlay.
Yep.
So what type of, time frame are both projects gonna coincide? Are you
Yep.
thinking it's gonna be like 2 months or not quite that bad?
So the 15 project, the one going north,
Yeah.
will have probably a start date. I have it written down here, so I have to cheat a little bit, but that one will start probably like a mid-July timeframe.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, so that one starts a little bit later, it's a mill and overlay, and end probably like a November timeframe.
Is there full shoulder work to be done with that one?
Yeah. So they'll be doing the main line and the shoulder, so kind of the driving lanes and the shoulder.
You no longer know you're crossing the county line. Cause you can tell now.
Oh, you can tell by the plow operators now.
Timeframe for the Highway 60 project, like I mentioned, there's a stage 1 and a stage 2. So if we look at a 2022, I'm just gonna get onto the right page here. So 2022 phase 1, that's when the County Road 3, the County Road 58 would be the detour. That would be expected to start like an April time period, depending on the weather. They'll get out as soon as they can, and end probably a mid-June time frame. And then they would pick up and go to the phase 2 from mid-June to probably like a November time frame.
But that would be the plan, is to have phase 1 of the 2022 project done before the 15 north project
Yes.
starts?
Yep, so that, at that point, the reason we have it that way is because in the phase 1, some of these 15 and 60, some of these ramps will be open, so we can maintain traffic for a longer period of time.
Right.
And then when that northern project starts, we're gonna plan on closing this interchange to allow for the bridge work and, to give the contractor more flexibility for this Highway 15
At
job.
that point, you're not using it anymore.
Great. That's
For 2 years, I get to drive to Fairmont with complications.
You go 60 down to 15? Okay. Biggest complications will just be getting onto the Highway 15.
Yeah, and the people that don't know that the road changes and drive faster than they should.
And so the only real difference between when you're using County Road 9 and County Road 3 is when you're using County Road 9, when you come through town, you take what we call Old Highway 60 up to Main Street, and at that point, it's the same. You're
Yeah.
taking the drill out down.
Yep, exactly. So the detour is relatively the same, once you, at the 4-way stop, right on Main Street there, that's where it changes.
Anything will help, that's for sure.
That's gonna be nice.
And, like, we do recognize it's gonna, 2 years, construction going on around Medelia, so it's gonna be impactful to a certain way, but one of the things we've done, we've been designing this for a couple of years, we've worked closely with Teal at the county, talking with her about detour routes, making sure that our project isn't gonna be impacting any of the county road projects that are happening, for instance. We've been coordinating with Christine on the project as well, so, MinDOT recognizes that, there will be an impact, but at the same time, these impacts are obviously necessary because of the roadway needing work. But we've really tried to help maintain that traffic and be cognizant that, we have to balance that traffic maintenance with
Some bids have already been let.
No, so the letting for the
Said
middle,
something about May.
yeah, so the letting for the northern project is May. That's kind of why it's starting more of a July time period. And the letting for the 60 project is January 28th. So a couple of weeks.
What's your estimate for cost?
The 60 project's about 20 million, and the 15 project, I believe, is in the 3 to 5 million amount.
Sounds pretty cheap.
I think Lee, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're remodeling the building at the corner of Drew and Main. And we need to replace that curb on Drew, for that one block section. At what point are you gonna have that detour going by there? That starts in April then?
Drew and Main. Could you let me know exactly where Drew and Main?
So if you're using County Road 3, exit coming in,
At the
that will be the
four-way
turn when you go up to go to Highway 15.
It's the four-way stop.
Yeah, the four-way stop
stop.
goes north back up to Highway 15.
Oh, yeah, so it's a 4-way stop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, right as you come into
yep,
town.
yeah.
Yeah, so that one will essentially, that detour will be going on, in phase 1, which is the April through mid-June time period. There will be a right-hand turn at that intersection, so if I zoom
Off of
in.
3.
Correct, so if you're heading west on 3, you would then take a right at that intersection and head north on 58. And that would be that April through mid-June timeframe. And then after.
So
that
after
period,
June, there's no detour on Drew, or it's
Yeah,
continued?
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, Drew's east-west.
No,
North-south.
Drew's north-south.
Drew's
North-south.
north-south. Okay, so 58,
Yes,
yes, yep, there will be.
it's just gonna come from
It'll,
farther
it'll
down.
be from April
It'll
till,
come from farther
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
They'll basically.
So-
do
What
all-
impact, I mean, can we do our curb replacement during the detour?
I would like to see a little bit better idea of like where you're talking about and, the length and size of it and all that, so, I don't know, Christine, is that something that you could send me a little bit more detail on?
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, they-
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't wanna give you an answer without having a little bit more background on it and, what sort of work is to expected and, what that looks like. Is it just expected to be on the shoulder work and just like a couple of day duration, or is it a little bit more significant than that?
Tentatively, right now, they said 3 days
Yeah,
and 1 lane,
okay.
so,
So they wanna do a lane closure to do that,
well,
what they'd like to do?
Oh, boy.
I don't know if we can just do the shoulder. I'd imagine curb machine company.
Depends
they're
on,
gonna
yeah,
want-
curb machine,
they're
but
gonna
they
want-
probably aren't gonna be able to use a curb machine necessarily there anyway.
Well, they'll run that full length.
Yeah,
so
but
it
they'd
runs
have
from
to,
Main to First, doesn't it?
they'd have to almost remove a portion of bituminous to get the curb machine in there to lay it.
Mhm.
Is that what they were planning on doing? Maybe?
To my understanding.
Oh, okay.
So they would have a lane, cause you'd be on the or in the lane when you're laying it
Right.
with the curb machine.
Is it a,
Hopefully they'll
like,
get
are we
that.
talking like 100-foot section or 500 feet?
That-
Maybe
Full
probably
block.
about, yeah,
Block.
A
so
couple hundred feet.
probably closer to, yeah, 550 probably altogether.
Okay,
With what's on, cause they're gonna are they going low curb on Main as well?
I think
Not
that's
necessarily.
up in the area.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'd have Maine also possible.
Yeah.
They were looking at trying to do it in May. In a 3-day schedule, but that's pushing it 3 days, I would think.
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Depends on the
before giving you an answer, it'd be helpful to get a little bit more information and exactly you guys are
We
looking
can,
at doing.
we can put something together and send it to them and get a game plan.
Okay,
That'd be helpful.
And I'm not sure, can we, if we're blessed with an early spring, can we get it in there before May? I don't know.
April, what was the April start date?
Is it, so the south of County Road 3?
North.
In the north,
It's
Okay.
on, actually on County Road 3 and then north.
It's,
on both.
It's a
on
section
both.
from right here going up,
Oh, so it's both.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Did I go the right way?
Yeah, it's on County Road 3 and then north on 58.
yeah, his cruiser
Main-
is
Main
technically
Street's
on the property right now.
Up in the area a little bit.
Okay.
But if it's a total of 3 days, if we coordinate this right, could those 3 days be done before we start the detour?
That's what I'm asking.
Oh,
if we're
so does
blessed
this work
with,
because of the new
New
fire
fire
station?
center.
and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more clear. Yeah,
Exactly what it is.
yeah.
It's like a fun game of Tetris.
3 days.
Yeah, the only problem would be is semi trucks.
You sure you get hot?
Making a curve.
Don't
Making
know.
that turn.
Especially clothes.
Unless you
Put
got
it in
them,
your pocket once.
Maybe we just detour them down Main Street for,
unless you put them in your
3
gloves,
days.
it's.
It's only
10.
15
Oh,
traffic.
Oh, that's
so-
different.
wish school
Wanna
wasn't
have them
in,
go out Benzel?
yeah. I wish school wasn't in session then, but it is what it is. You know, it's 3 days, it would be a ton more traffic, be some,
The idea would be to be able to get it done though before this happened. If we
Right.
could- If we could sequence it right.
yep.
Yeah, but
Ideally.
it's not just 15 traffic, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
is
'cause
it-
60, he said 60 is gonna stay the way it is. It's
Yeah.
just 15 traffic.
Yep, it's just to get on to 15,
Yeah, to get on to 15.
correct.
Would there be a better time frame later in the summer, midsummer, early summer?
Well, what I'm thinking a little bit is, so in phase 1, so when we're using County Road 3, at that point, we're planning to keep all of the ramps open, except the eastbound and northbound ramps, so that loop, that would be closed during that phase 1. And then when you get to the phase 2, when we're using County Road 9, that whole interchange is gonna be closed. So there's kind of benefits from each. When we're doing this setup, we don't have any additional traffic on County Road 3 because all the traffic is just going straight north and south. Detour traffic is going straight north and south. But it's seeing the full Highway 15 detour route. Whereas in that first phase, when you're using County Road 3, that detour is going on County Road 3, but it's only seeing a portion of that Highway 15 because a lot of the 3 of the 4 ramps are open.
It's just the northbound traffic then, I suppose.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that's not a ton.
it won't be a ton.
No,
So,
it's not even significant, relative speaking.
It's like I said, even if we had to do something, even if we set up, you know, we have to close half of that, you know, maybe in 3 days.
right.
We set up down Main Street to Bensville and north and just move some signs quick.
Right, so I would expect that you wouldn't see a significant increase in traffic during that first phase, so, before that June, mid-June timeframe, that first phase that we have going on. One thing to keep in mind too is this is kind of a rule of thumb that we use, like, traffic engineers, is when we have a detour and we're rerouting that traffic, not all of that highway traffic is expected to use the detour ramp. We call it the 1/3 rule. So 1/3 of the traffic will use the detour route. 1/3 of the traffic will find a different route, their local traffic, for instance, so they'll know how to get in and out of town, just using other township roads and stuff like that. And then a 1/3 of the traffic just fades away, as in they're wanting to go to the grocery store or something, they just don't wanna deal with the detour, so they find a different time to do it. You know, that latter applies more so, you know, it's a short term detour, so it's like a weekend closure. People are more apt to do that, so they'll just say, well, let's go Monday instead of Sunday to get my groceries. So if you take that into account, you know, maybe you're a little bit more conservative and you say that 50% of traffic will use the detour versus the 30%. So it's something to keep in mind too, as when you think about how much additional traffic is going to be using that detour route. It's not all of the Highway 15 traffic. It'll be a portion of that, and that's again a rule of thumb. It's not exact science, but it gives maybe a little bit better idea of what that would look like.
Who has control of the roads during that detour, the state, or the county, or the local?
The
As far as
county
us
still-
contacting.
Yep, so we have an agreement with the county, it's called a detour agreement. So the state enters into the agreement with the county still, I believe, has control of it. You know, but MnDOT maintains that detour route during, construction. So by maintenance, I mean, like, you know, if there's potholes or something that form, MnDOT will go out and patch them, for instance.
But I think you're asking who you should contact if you wanna close it. Contact Teal or try to,
If you wanna close what?
If we need
if
to.
you wanna close the lane on
start that.
58,
Or when we wanna start work, or
Well,
just
Or
run,
not even-
we're
run
gonna have,
on up the chain.
necessarily gonna be an option depending.
Both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, Fuel would wanna know for sure, but also.
we're gonna
MnDOT
have to
would.
do a permit and everything with Teal first,
Yeah.
and then we'll go through everything.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to get a permit from us, but we would wanna know just so that we can take that into account and provide any input that we need with the detour.
What's the phase-to-phase switchover time frame for re-signage and all that usually look like? About a week or not? Not that long?
Depends. With the scale of this project, it'll be a little bit longer, you know, I'd expect a week or so, but it just depends on weather and stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind is next winter at this time, construction won't be happening. And so all 4 lanes of Highway 60 will be open, all of the interchanges will be open too. So the impact will be just kind of during the construction season.
Yeah, if they go faster, then they can get around Madelia faster. So
I'll just kind of hit on outreach a little bit. So like I mentioned, we've been coordinating with Teal, we've been coordinating with Christine. We've had a couple of meetings already, kind of with the school, fire and ambulance. I've kind of talked about this too as well. But from like a public standpoint, we do have project websites, kind of listed on the bottom of this pamphlet here. Essentially just a regurgitation of what's on the sheet, so you guys probably don't need to go to the website. We do send out what we call construction postcards, so they're little one pamphlet postcards that we'll send out to people that live along the corridor, just giving them a heads up that if they have any questions, contact me, or the construction staff. And then we'll also be doing a lot of news releases, so a couple of weeks ahead of time before we see construction begin, or when we see that traffic change between a phase 1 or phase 2. We'll send out news releases that go to the newspaper, then we'll go on Facebook and all these other social media platforms. Just trying to give that awareness to the public as much as possible that construction will be happening, and giving them an idea of what to expect and what it will look like. And then we'll also be having a construction open house coming in the spring of 2022, so probably a month or 2 before construction begins. We'll have a construction open house somewhere here in Madelia where MnDOT will be there. We'll have some of our construction staff there, I'll likely be there. But at that point, the contractor will also be there too, so we'll know who the contractor is and they can get a little bit better idea of how they plan to do the actual construction work. Yeah, and the next steps, we'll continue to coordinate with you guys and reach out to us with any sort of questions or concerns, you know. We'll be around during construction and,
And they're not doing any, drainage work or anything, in the, infrastructure along 60 underneath that drains to the river?
to the river itself.
Not that you're aware of.
Not that I'm aware that goes to the river itself. You know, we'll be doing a lot of the culvert work, lining the culverts and stuff like that, cleaning up ditches.
But the main that dumps into the river, they're not, looking at any, issues in there?
Are you talking the one that,
The 60-inch
Yeah.
one that runs
there's
underneath,
one that, there's a trunk line that goes from the city underneath the highway and then dumps into the river? Yeah, we've looked at that. I believe if anything, it would be cleaning it out and potentially lining it, but I can't recall
but it's not
exactly.
on the spec sheet for this.
We're not
one.
gonna remove it and replace it, for instance, so,
Right.
yeah, so there potentially is some work involved with it, but.
I have no other questions. Anybody else got any questions?
Well thought out, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, if you guys have anything, feel free to reach out to me. Contacts on the bottom of those sheets. Otherwise, thanks for spending the time listening to me talk for 40 minutes, and hopefully it's helpful.
You know, it's important, so appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do wanna note that the future meetings that are scheduled are, Peter will be at the school board meeting on January 20th at 6:30. And then also the annual chamber meeting at Los Sanity Brewing on February 7th at 5:30.
That sounds like the one to be at.
Yeah.
They're gonna love your ideas.
I'm sure it'll be a blast.
Yeah.
What's next on our workshop? Anything?
Yep. Are you ready?
Yep.
Alright. A water wastewater rate study has been completed. A water wastewater commission meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 12th at 4 p.m. I sent out the invite to, Cody and Andy for 4 o'clock this Wednesday. Number 3, a marketing proposal has been received by Liz. Can you help me out, Andy?
Lucas.
Lucas?
Because, yes.
This marketing proposal has 2 options. I would like to propose that we contract with Liz on option 1 at this time for a total estimate of $10,800 to $16,000 for the campground project. This, marketing would, help in regards to finding software to do online reservations. It would also, put together marketing packets, Facebook, basically just getting the campground up to today's time and getting it out there. This would have to be put on tonight's agenda if you want to proceed with accepting the proposal. I have talked to Liz about other, thanks Peter again.
Thanks, Peter. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.
I have talked to Liz about other projects. There would be the campground grand opening, the new city hall opening, Medelia Tours book, working hand in hand with the chamber, and promoting of the clubhouse, golf course.
And we budgeted it anyhow, didn't we?
Right now, as we sit, our total expenses for the campground are at $84,361.61. And we budgeted over $100,000 for the campground expansion.
I would like to put it on the agenda.
Was this an RFP kind of a thing, or is this just someone?
I called a couple different marketing places and, they never got back to me.
She's the only one that responded?
And she was the one that actually came in, sat down with me, went through everything, and, laid it all out. And I believe that Liz also is providing more than a marketing, place could provide. Like, she's working hand in hand with me to find software and implement it and design it. So right now, we're going into the season like we normally do, old school. Everything's written down in a book and everything. And so Liz has a timeline in regards to when she wants to implement this software. And then we take the old reservations, put them into the software and just do test runs. Test runs to see how it actually works. I mean, she's willing to do all of that.
The bottom line is she's got the creativity, and she's showing the initiative.
She showed me the most initiative in regards to really digging into this project and going the extra mile, honestly.
That's all I need.
Well, we talked, you know, about this original campground upgrade to, you know, virtual or however you want, online registration, online reservations, online cancellations, actual site map where you can actually pick what site you wanna
Yep.
be on. We've talked about that for probably 3 years, before this expansion was even a possibility. But some of the other things we've talked about for the last 3-4 years are cross-marketing and involving the pool and golf course in the campground marketing and making sure that everybody that camps at our campground is aware of the other amenities in town, whether that's, you know, a chamber packet or just letting everybody, you know, whether it's a packet of menus or a packet of, you know, whatever, makes the most sense at any given time, just to let the people that are camping in our campground know. And one of the reasons why, you know, I kind of pointed Liz out to you was because of the fact that she's got not only print advertising experience, but quite a bit of digital experience here in the latest.
But I think also Liz brings to the table, more of an administrative role also, as for I feel that other marketing places, they're like, get that project done, but she's really diving in and looking at the whole picture. And so, I guess that's kind of why I'm proposing this tonight.
No, I'm good with that, I just,
Yep, so we'll add that as number 5.
that sounds tremendous.
Okay. A request, this is number 4, a request from Christopher Knoll of Minnewaska Community Health Service has requested that an address be assigned to the north wing of the Lutheran Memorial Home. The new address would be 304 4th Street Southwest. This wing is being looked at possibly becoming assistant living. And so we need to have that on the agenda also tonight.
So as we assign the address, that's already zoned correctly then for assisted living along with, nursing home?
Well, what would happen is, and I talked to the assessor about that, assisted living is handled differently. It's actually a taxable property. And so I talked to the assessor's office about that. We would that wing would actually have to be branched off. The nursing home would still stay exempt, but the assisted living would become taxable.
So would they look at doing a simple lot division or something and then a
That's-
secondary parcel number?
Yep. But this is very preliminary. I'm not really sure where everything sits, but we're just assigning 304 to that side door currently.
Well, you know, it's been empty since they built it, so it'd be nice with people in it.
So,
The actual assigning of the address is probably less important than.
The fact that there is a separate address.
Right, the other thing is if they actually do receive mail there, is that something where we have to notify emergency services in the post office of that secondary address, or it doesn't really matter?
I've never notified the post office or the emergency services for any other address. I basically, and I'm looking at Rob to maybe give me some insight on this.
As far as we're concerned, once the, you know, address gets established, then we just input it into our records management system and it'll be up and running with whatever it's gonna be called, so we can do that whenever it's approved and we have it created.
So who
put it in there.
normally notifies you for, say there is a new address say it's in a vacant lot in town and it gets a new address, once that address is established, so that emergency services knows if there's a call to that address, where to go.
Well, a lot of times the calls just come in and it's created on the spot, and that would be the first record of its existence, so,
Okay.
but
Well, but
when we get new addresses created by the city, typically we'll try and input those and get them created into our records management system also. And police, ambulance, fire all go off of that same system through the county, so.
The only reason I bring that up is because I would assume that this would probably be a address that might have a call or two over its lifespan if it is actually assisted living at some point.
Yep.
They know how to do that.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm not saying that.
After-
they don't.
You know what I mean?
I'm just saying that.
No, what I mean is that that's probably what part of the T's they cross and I's they dot when they separate that,
Yeah.
because of that very fact.
And quite frankly, the first one or two calls might create a little bit of confusion, but after that,
Okay.
everybody will know the difference, so. I mean, they have multiple calls down to the nursing home, it depends on where they send them, either the horseshoe doors or the
Sure.
beauty shop or the main entrance, so there's, they usually give some directions on where they're going as well.
Okay.
Alright, so, any other questions on that before I move on to the next one? Cool. Alright, commission applications have been received, so, we will need to discuss, we only have one position, a one-year term to finish out Jeff Allman's position on the Light Plant Commission, and we received 2 applications. So we have David Cerny and we have Jim Kruger. And then the Golf Commission, we received two applications, so I have 2 positions, and I have Jake Redden and Joe Wacker. And then Pool Commission, I have 1 position, and that's Travis Bottleson. Planning Commission, I have 2 positions, Joe Wacker and Travis Bottleson. So really the only one that I,
If we have to take a vote on it, it'd be Dave Cerny or Duke.
yep, so that'll be tonight on the agenda. I also did receive another application, but she stated whatever commission. So if you would like, Michelle Cooperinger, to be a part of one of these commissions.
Looks like it's pretty obvious to me which one we would want her to take,
Well, there's not any of that.
the one that has no applicants.
I'm full.
Well, Travis Bottleson's not on there for pool or planning.
We could put, yeah, you
But
could put her on
She could do
pool.
pool, yeah.
Was Travis passionate about being on the pool commission?
He just said he would help out where needed.
Yeah, I would suggest that if she's that interested, that we put her on the full commission.
I would second that thought.
Well, then we will make that motion at the meeting. Number 6, just wanna go over the pay request for Stop Construction, for the wastewater project. This is 93.65 complete. We will be discussing this project at the water wastewater meeting on Wednesday. They are requesting, an extension on the final completion date. So I am hoping that we can come up with a solution on that one. Pay request number 4 from McGuire Iron, is also on the agenda tonight, and just to let you know, I was so excited because they were supposed to be here this week, but now they have been pushed back to the 14th of January. So they will be on site next week, putting it together and erecting the tower. And then number 8, revisiting the sign request for Staples, on parcel 17-476-0080. The sign is on city property. Knudsen Casey will be doing some research to discuss. We will need to schedule a planning and zoning meeting on January 24th for this item. Patrick, can you help me out in regards to what information you have for us tonight.
Well, when we purchased the property, we should have leased the space and it should have been taxable from the beginning. That's the short answer to the longer analysis given by the League of Cities. So, between now and the 24th, we gotta figure out exactly what that means for us moving forward. I disagree with the League of Cities analysis, however, they're probably right and I'm probably wrong, so. Which is to say that we purchased the property, the sign was already erected on it prior to our purchase. Not in the reverse. If we had purchased it with the idea of allowing them to remain and lease the property to keep the sign there, then I think then at that point it should lose its status, but rather it's there when we purchased it. And by changing the facade, it shouldn't change the nature, it doesn't change the nature of the sign, it's not moving the sign. So I disagree with League of Cities analysis, but
So is
their
it,
analysis is actually is legally sound, so.
is it the same owning entity, you're just changing the name?
No, there's a change in ownership.
Okay.
BP is purchasing, BP is being purchased by someone, by Staples, who's putting a Holiday Station in, and therefore changing the facade on the sign.
So Staples doesn't also own BP?
Yes,
Well, they bought the BP station.
They
bought
bought the
They
station.
They bought it from Roger.
They bought the
Staples.
station,
Oh,
which
so Roger
includes,
owns it.
Yes.
right, which includes the sign, which Roger also owned.
So
And
there's
they
a
wanna
change in
change-
ownership.
That's correct. And then they wanna change the facade of the sign that they now own, that there's no lease or easement or anything. Which
Well,
causes
in-
another issue, which is that there are certain right-of-ways that exist on that sign, and we have no agreements or easements or anything.
So, wasn't the sign put up before the pond was put in?
I think that's what he's saying.
I believe so, yeah.
Sign was previous to the ownership or to the purchase of the property for the pond.
So Casey, Patrick Casey analysis says, well, we've been audited how many times since that sign has existed there? How could the state have missed that as a non-taxable event when it should be taxed? I mean, their code can be pretty adamant about lining their coffers, but no, we've had no issue with not that being a property that's tax exempt. So my thought is change in ownership really doesn't change the nature of that in my mind. I know what the statute says, but then the state has gotten it wrong for, how long has it been since we put the pond in?
03? 2003?
Yeah, so.
So it's 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years of oversight, and my opinion is that it doesn't change, by the ownership changing, doesn't change the nature of the sign. It's, like I said, it's not being moved, it's not being now re-erected. All they're doing is changing the facade, and so therefore it shouldn't change the nature of the property, just by it changing hands and ownership. But again, like I said, there's disagreement between myself.
Are we in that situation anywhere else in town?
What's that?
Do we have that situation anywhere else?
I
The sign,
I wouldn't look for
What?
it.
With that billboard,
What you just said
Billboard.
is the right answer.
yep,
Where
remember?
you,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
billboard was already there and you purchased the property and it's still tax exempt.
No, the billboard is on, that, I guess that's a totally different situation, but there is no agreement on that billboard.
same problem, different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is that, so I understand what you're saying, Patrick, and I agree with you, I just wanna make sure that we're not doing something here that we're not doing equitably for somebody else.
No, I
elsewhere.
get what you're saying. You wanna do it across the board. And, I mean,
Nobody else is paying taxes because they have a billboard or sign on city property.
No, the city would have to pay taxes
The,
on
be
the
a
property.
tax
sign
burden
going into
to
St.
us.
James on,
Yeah,
by
the line
leasing
that did
that
go on the
space
table put up?
to
Did they pay
BP,
taxes on that?
Rogers, or to Holiday. But there was no such lease, because when we purchased the property for public use and
Went
put
out by
it
the
on,
airport.
the sign already existed, and in the
City's
transfer
still
of that
on the
property,
land, but
there
where the
was
airport
no
was.
easement, there was no lease discussed about.
But you know, it'd be the
about
same
the
thing.
sign being leased there, it just
What's his county's
existed.
position?
So what are we
They
actually
don't-
taxed on?
for
We're
the
taxed on the
$10
value of the
that-
property, or we're taxed on the income off the lease?
That's a great question.
Again, that's another question I'd have to ask, I don't know.
Because I think that's the game changer. If we're getting money for a lease, that's one thing. If we're not, then I agree with you. Let's just. leave it.
Well, if it's a written lease with no tangible change in value. I
You're talking
mean,
like Acorn, like a buck,
Right,
right? Or we tax at the value.
do we
value,
have
tax
to,
at
do
value
we
of
have to
property.
pay
I'd
taxes
say
on
that the
$20
state
over
is
the
probably,
last
the
20
state's
years?
probably gonna be looking for the greater number that exists and tax you accordingly.
So then we'd have to figure out what that pond is worth. And probably pay back
I don't think we
taxes.
just jump off the bridge quite yet.
Worth anything.
I'm gonna have another
Contains smelling water.
conversation with the League of Cities based on, my analysis, their analysis, and then get a little bit more guidance, cause
Yeah,
they just did legal analysis. They didn't tell me how to fix the current issue. They
Right.
just told me that this property should have probably been taxed when it was transferred, when it, 2002, 2003. I didn't even graduate law school, gentlemen, so I don't, I gotta figure out what we have to do.
I guess that would be the question, is it, is the income off the lease, off a potential lease taxable, or is the, the value of the property the taxable?
Well, I'll
Because
answer
of-
that, I'd have to go back and look at
I
the
would
statute.
say the easy solution is lease it for as little as possible and just start paying taxes on
Here's a
that
dollar.
lease. Right.
Pay taxes on your dollar.
7 cents.
I have, like I said, I have a feeling that that's not gonna.
You know what? I'll cover that.
But yeah, I don't know, so,
We'll take it to Mark. They'll cover the dollar.
Yeah.
Short answer is I don't think we do anything at this point.
Well,
With the change in ownership happening, has it already happened?
It happened a couple
Yeah.
years ago.
A couple of years ago?
yeah,
And they just
because it
now
operated,
they're just,
yeah.
Now they're
So-
changing, to Holiday, and that's why the facade's gonna change.
yeah.
right.
And
So
he
the-
needed an easement to move his other
only a year
sign,
ago.
which is now gonna become.
Since I've been home.
Since I've been home.
Okay.
Still.
Automatically, the one that's in his parking lot,
Right, yeah.
and the one that's on the post, all it's gonna say is Holiday instead
Right.
of,
Instead of
BP.
Right.
And, I'm guessing when this was all done, it was a handshake deal because Roger, borrowed money through the tax increment finance, and it was all, this is what we're gonna do, and the council said, okay, that looks good, and didn't think anything about it, they put the sign up, and away we went.
City administrator was Roger's uncle too.
Yeah.
I don't really see any problem with it, it's just.
Cousin.
Cousin,
No.
I'm sorry, cousin.
Cousin, yeah. So I don't see a problem with it. All I know is if there's a liability, and that was my question on having a lease, is the city liable if the sign falls over because it's on city property without any documentation?
Oh, so you started this problem, is that what you're
I
saying?
did.
No, I think that, there are probably more simple solutions, it's just I don't understand how for almost 20 years, we've allowed to own that piece of property tax exempt, and the state hasn't said boo about it, and yet now we look to change a facade, and that somehow changes the nature of the taxation of that property, absent us leasing it, so taking some affirmative action, which we don't intend. However, we do have liability concerns if a strong wind blows the sign over, is who is set to maintain that, likely us, even though the sign itself is owned, or both. I mean, they'll both go after both these pockets, don't get me wrong, we're lawyers too. But, that's a really good, that is a legitimate concern, and what is the actual taxable consequence as long as we then know that we're no longer liable sign or it's any liability going forward if we don't, one, have an ownership interest in it, and they're leasing the ground that's sitting on it. So they have a possessory interest, meaning they're responsible for it, yeah.
Those are all good questions that I think I have the answer to, but the League of Cities tells me I'm wrong, and I don't like it when I disagree with them, so.
I'll need more information to answer your question more precisely, though. Andy.
Is it, are we, because of its location, would we not be able to just subdivide off a sliver of that property and
I actually didn't look at the
Sell
actual
it-
property, it's like
sell
where it's
it for
located.
$1 or
I'll look at the sign as I drive out of town.
Yeah, there you
I'll
go.
look carefully.
It's going to the same place, right?
Right, it's just changing, I mean,
It's just
if you could just do a simple lot division and sell them that 10-foot strip to get to and from the sign, I don't know.
Give them an easement.
Well, they wouldn't even need it if they owned the whole thing, but then it would become taxable on their end, I guess. I don't know, unless we need it for anything else, I don't know what's all there. so.
From a city perspective, what kind of a tax consequence are we talking about, worst case scenario?
Well, that's what we don't know. That's what the question was
That's the
before.
that's the question.
Well, and
Right,
it-
so
it's
if
a
it's-
lit sign, that power's gotta come from somewhere too, so there's that,
Right.
that issue.
Then there's a power
We
line
could sell the strip
ran
with
out
it,
to
with
it,
maintaining our own easement.
Which is-
what we would need.
which is paid
Right.
by
Right.
Yeah.
Staples.
Yeah.
Does not
We're talking
pay
about
for
a
it.
rounding error here, this is, could be an academic conversation.
Right.
Well, I'm more worried that, tomorrow it falls and crushes Bert's truck and kills him than I am, anything else. I mean, just, that's what we do, is we create hypotheticals of really horrible things that could happen when we're in law school, so.
I'm gonna show my ignorance here, but how does us paying taxes or not have anything to do with the liability?
Well, it's all this kind of layered analysis, it's not just like one block. But if we say now are going to lease that space, it then makes the property taxable. The consequence of making sure that someone else is responsible for it has its then subsequent consequence of costing us money. And so before we
I get that.
make those decisions, you probably ought to know what each of the steps of the consequence are, and that's what we're trying to
Right, so
determine.
by leasing it, we might not only be liable from a tax standpoint, but also liable from a possible insurance standpoint.
And wouldn't it be easier, like Andy's suggesting, than to just slice
Sell
up
it.
a piece of the pie? It's theirs, they gotta maintain it, and we just retain our easements,
And then
easements
they
on
would
there.
pay the taxes, even if we sold it for $1, but.
Yeah, even acorn transfer,
Right.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
7:00 if you're past that,
Do you wanna get a motion to close the workshop?
I
I so-
entertain a motion to
I
close.
so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent items with one additional agenda item, or two.
Two additional.
What was the second one?
The change in name from Travis to, the lady.
Oh, and actually I have that open spaces, so you guys will then determine who it is.
Oh, okay,
So,
got it. So then there's one
one
additional.
one additional.
And I got a motion, did I get a second?
I'll second.
Who is my motion?
Glenn.
Glenn.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Discuss and take appropriate action on assigning address 304 4th Street Southwest Lutheran Memorial.
So,
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think Glenn has his finger up.
I know.
Does it matter that the name is wrong?
oh, that's not,
Oh,
It's not Living Memorial,
Meadows.
it's Living Meadows.
Living Meadows,
Yeah, we should really
We should
classify it as
probably.
Living
you
Meadows.
better clarify that.
I'm just,
motion.
I don't think on Beacon it is actually Living Meadows, I think it's Lutheran Memorial.
They might not have changed their
On the
name.
tax.
Yeah, on the tax.
it might still be.
Yeah, that probably didn't change. Anyhow, I have a motion and a second, we'll figure that out when we. Any other discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Yes, discuss, take appropriate action on open commission seats.
So Life Land has two individuals, Dave Cerny and Jim, what did you say?
Kruger.
Kruger, sorry. This is a one position, 1 year term to finish out Jeff Alman's position.
Andy, you sit on the Life Plant Board,
I personally would like to recommend Dave Cerny. Jim has served in the past, and we definitely appreciate his service in the past on that board, but I think with the, upcoming substation and some bigger projects, even though this is only the remainder of a 1 year term, my hope is for some board stability for the next 3 to 5 years until the substation project's complete. So that would be my recommendation, and I'd like to make that a motion that we approve Dave Cerny.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
It is
Golf Commission, this is two positions, for a 2 year term. I have Jake, Redden and Joe Acker.
Do I have a motion to approve the, applicants as, printed?
I so move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Pool Commission, I have one position, 2 year term.
And two applicants, Travis Bottleson and then Michelle.
Coppinger. I would move that Michelle Coppinger be appointed to the Pool Commission.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Good deed goes unpunished.
Planning Commission, two position, 2 year term. Joe Acker, Travis Bottleson.
So moved.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
So-
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Andy. Please, after you. I'll throw
Glenn's got the second.
got the
Any other
second on it, or
discussion?
Andy?
Give Glenn the
it.
second.
I'll take the second. I need a second. Thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Discuss and take appropriate action on pay request number 10, Staub Construction wastewater project.
Is this something that he wanted to wait on, or?
We can approve the pay request, but we will be discussing at the water wastewater the change order. And so that will come.
And you're gonna put that on next meeting's agenda?
Change order
depending
will
on-
be on next meeting, but the pay request is okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Number 4, discuss and take appropriate action on pay request number 4, McGuire Iron Water Tower Project.
So moved.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second. Was this gonna expedite the timeline at all, since they're coming now instead of later in the spring, or we don't know yet? Still be a finalization or no?
We won't paint until the summer.
Okay,
Yeah, so the completion date is the same.
pretty much the same, it'll all be dependent on painting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Number 5, contract between Liz Klaus, for consulting,
Wait,
right?
I have one more. I have,
What'd I miss?
Riverview Heights, final plat.
Oh, that
Sorry.
wasn't,
That's right there. It's not listed on your thing?
no.
Alright, then we're gonna have to do another, agenda item then, I'm sorry.
So
So
now,
you can do number 5 as Liz right now.
okay, let's do number 5 as Liz. For consulting and marketing, for the city of Medelia. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we accept the proposal for option one with Liz Lucas.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, do I have any other discussion?
I'll be abstaining.
Okay. Do I have any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So it's 3-1. Or
3-0-1.
3-1.
3-1-1.
Okay.
Sounds like a wild.
Now I need to get amended motion to the consent items because there should have been 2 additional agenda, which I was ready to start with, but anyhow.
Let's not nitpick.
You're not clear.
I'll make a motion to append the agenda
I'll
to
second that.
include this final agenda
I'm
item.
gonna second whatever sentence he finishes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 6 is discuss take appropriate action on final plat for Riverview Heights subdivision number 2.
This was the replatting of the center island, correct?
Yep, so we had a public hearing on July 12th at 5 o'clock, and then a planning commission meeting. It was all reviewed, and we received comments on the proposed preliminary plat, and everything was approved on July 12th. Everything has been done, and now is going to final plat.
I'll make a motion to approve this final plat.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any other discussion? Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Just wanna add one thing is, and I apologize that it wasn't on your agenda item, but Brian Fisher did call me on Friday, and as soon as this is all signed and recorded at the courthouse, he's ready to buy another lot to start to build this year, so.
Sweet.
Okay,
Bordering on tremendous.
good deal. Citizens communications? Other than, as it warms up, if people can get out and, try to scrape some of that snow and ice off their sidewalks, it'd be appreciated. Somewhere I saw an adopt a fire hydrant, project, so if you have a fire hydrant, keep that in mind that you should clear that. So the firefighters can put out a fire if we have one in Bedelia. Anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
I so move.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Motion carried. So in a couple minutes, we'll start the EDA.